Hello, it's Ruby, and I have a ridiculous number of notebooks. I know this. I am well aware that I have a ridiculous number of notebooks, but I do love notebooks. I love writing by hand, and I love the fact that each of my notebooks serves a different purpose, and I know which notebook to use if I want something. So today I wanted to give you an insight into my current notebook ecosystem, all of the notebooks that are in fiere, you could say, meaning in use or like in the process of becoming. Here are all of the notebooks I'm going to be showing you. As you can see, there are a lot, and I'm so excited to share them. So I am having to split these notebooks up under categories because there are a lot. And the first category is on-the-go quick notes reminders. I do have quite a few notebooks that fall under this category. So first, I will always have a boring on-the-go notebook. I use these mini craft notebooks, but I will literally just find the cheapest ones that I can and use those, as long as they're passport sized. I always make sure that they're recyclable notebooks because these are the ones that I actually will recycle and get rid of, whereas everything else is something I will keep. Then the other on-the-go notebook is a pumpkin notebook. And I split this, so from the front it is anything related to YouTube, and then from the back is anything which is just like personal notes and personal planning. So it might be that I plan a YouTube video in here, it might be that I plan something for my stationery company, and then in the back I might plan what's in my bag, or I might do some planning for a trip. I also then have a messy notebook. Usually this would just be a couple of pounds, and I will get like the £1 ones that you can get in supermarkets. However, I'm using this one at the moment because I have had it lying around for a while and I wanted to use it up, and I just will use this for quick jottings when I'm at my desk. So it will always be there on the side of my desk, and then I can write things down as they come up so that they don't distract me in the moment. This is genuinely a top productivity hack. Like, always have a messy notebook open on the desk next to you, because then if a thought comes up or you think of something that you need to do, you can just really quickly like write it down and then defer it to later, as opposed to getting worried that you're going to forget about it and then getting up from your work, breaking your sense of flow and doing it right there and then. Then for random projects, I use these passport notebooks from Muji. These ones are not currently in use, but the two projects I have on the go have one of these notebooks, and I keep them in my Paper Republic. These are just so handy and also beautiful, and you can use a gold foil pen to add an engraving on the front, which I love. So when I'm doing an essay at university, for example, I would use one of these as a mini commonplace book and write down everything to do with that essay, all planning, all random thoughts while I'm out and about. And it's a great way to keep everything in one place, but also allow yourself and encourage yourself to think about the essay when you're on the go. So those are all what I like to call my quick notes notebooks, things that I would just pick up if I've got a random thought, if there's something which is slightly more miscellaneous or planning based or reminder based that I want to do. This next one doesn't have a category because it's the only of its kind, but this is my bullet journal. I've had this since 2020 and I love this. I basically just use this for any kind of spread that I might want to do. So things like this, where I add collages, but this is kind of for aesthetic journaling. So for example, that's a page I did before I went to Haworth. It's lasted me like a really long time, as you can see. I got a very thick one when I bought it. It's got 230 pages, and I don't do masses of journaling like this, but I do still enjoy doing it. I love having this notebook, and I love the fact that it stretches all the way from 2020 to 2025. As you can see, it's got many stickers as well, which I added back in 2020 when I got it. This one is one of my favourite notebooks, and it always sits on the radiator beside my desk so I can pick it up. So the next is diary keeping. I really enjoy keeping a diary, and I've kept a diary since I was 8 years old. I didn't keep it very consistently at that time. I then kept a diary every single day, like without fail, between the ages of 15 and 18, and it's such a wonderful thing to look back on. I'm so pleased that I did it, and I really need to get back into the habit of writing every day. This is I think this is my 6th journal, but this is the diary that I use for documenting things that happen in my life. I try to write in it every day, but realistically I probably write in it once a week. This particular diary is the Paper Blanks Bronte collaboration. So this is a manuscript which has been gold tooled on the front, and then on the back you can see pictures of all of the Bronte sisters. And the one distinctive thing I would say about my diaries is that I exclusively write in fountain pen. All of my other notebooks don't have a rule as to the kind of pen that I will use. However, my official diaries since 2015 have always used a fountain pen, and I used to be even more specific and only write in Parker pen blue black ink, but now I'm a little bit more relaxed, and it just makes it more special, and I like the ritual of it. Keeping a diary every day is something I would highly recommend, even though I personally have fallen out of the habit. And then the other diary which is on the go is my pumpkin productivity one, which is for morning pages. So this is just stream of consciousness written thought, and I mainly will use this if I'm feeling very stressed about something. So I think journaling is a great way to process thoughts, and to, especially if you're feeling nervous or anxious, to kind of understand where that anxiety is coming from, and it is the main thing that will calm me down if I'm feeling very anxious. So the reason I will use a different notebook is because these are two very different kinds of journaling. This is more record keeping of my life, like a kind of a form of archiving my life, and then this is about processing. And I also like to be very messy with this, so I will just scrawl all over. It doesn't matter how neat it is, whereas the other one has to be neat in fountain pen. Morning pages is great, I would recommend. I also have this notebook, which I think kind of comes under this category. I've actually been like collating things for this notebook but haven't assembled it yet. It's another Muji one. I like to write letters whenever I go on holiday somewhere, kind of things that I want to take back with me and things that I learnt on the trip. So my plan is to just stick all of these into this notebook so that I have a little travel journal of things that I've learnt in different places, but I need to assemble this still. Then the next category is probably my favourite category, which is commonplacing. This is my main commonplace book. This is my pride and joy. I adore this notebook and I refer to it so much. I read it so much. I often will read this instead of reading a book when I'm out and about. I just love going through it because it's a combination of all of my favourite thoughts, ideas, things that I've collected through the media I've consumed. Ironic that I've actually opened just now to Steal Like an Artist and notes I took from that. Basically, I just compile different quotes and ideas, thinking, thoughts under certain headings. So for example, childhood, art, friendship, melancholy, reading, commonplacing, and the idea is just keeping it all together in one place. I have filmed a whole video on how I use this commonplace book, and I have a Skillshare course on the history of commonplacing too, and how you can use commonplacing to curate curiosity. I do often work with Skillshare, so possibly wait until I work with Skillshare again quite soon, because then you can do the course for free. But yes, this is my commonplace book, but I do have a few other notebooks which I think fall under this like notion of commonplacing and would probably be best categorized as commonplace books. So the first one is this one. It's another pumpkin productivity notebook one. If you can tell, I like using the pumpkin productivity notebooks. I decorated this one with stickers from my Jane Didion book, and also this cutout from a dictionary. I just love how it turned out. This is where I will write book reviews. I only started doing this year, but it's a great way to actually keep track of what I thought about the book, because until now I've just kind of relied on my memory, and especially if I'm filming a book wrap-up video or like sharing book reviews, I feel like having this is going to be really useful, because let me tell you, when it comes to the end of the year and I do my like reviewing every book I read this year video, it can be really challenging, and I feel like my reviews aren't as specific as I'd want them to be, and so this way I can actually remember the key thoughts I had at the time. Recently I've also experimented with adding in other kinds of media that I like, so like a picture of a painting, or even like a quote that I find online. I was going to start a new notebook for that, but then I thought they kind of went together. Then this one is for photocopies of pages from books that I really enjoy. So like these are my favourite passages from books. Again, I only started this fairly recently, but often, especially with a library book, I will find a passage that I love and I want to reread, and I don't really have a way of marking it apart from taking a photograph, and I rarely look through photographs of books. So I started doing this to actually encourage myself to read through the things that I really like. And then my final commonplace book is an academic commonplace book. This is where I write down any kinds of research from my home curriculum. So anything like academically interesting that I want to remember. Okay, so then this is the big one, writing, which of course you need many notebooks for, and I love handwriting. This here is my primary novel writing notebook, so this is everything related to the novel I'm working on at the moment, and the portfolio just keeps everything in one place, which I love. So if I open this up, on the side here I've got a mini notebook which I use for quotes and Pinterest photos and inspiration. So it's like a travelling Pinterest board of elements which have been inspirational and might be inspirational when I'm writing. And then this here is an A5 moleskin. Moleskins are my favourite notebooks to write in, as you will quickly see, and this is the notebook that I'm using for all of my handwriting of my book. It can be really great to have one notebook exclusively for this, otherwise my notebooks become so muddled between like random poetry and prose that I write and then like novel work. This is literally just a stream of thought, and I always go for the blank moleskins because I prefer writing on blank paper. Finally, I have this Muji notebook at the end. This is just a plain lined one. I love Muji notebooks as well, and in this notebook I write down world building. So this is any research related to the novel. It could be like working out a plot hole, but I like to have a messy notebook where I can do that. This is the notebook I was using before that Muji one, so this is completely full, but this is lots of world building and research ready for writing the novel, so I sometimes consult this. And then I have a few other moleskins. As you can see, they are my favourite. So these two are hardback moleskins, and this one is for two other novels I've been working on, like one starting from the front, one starting from the back. This is kind of miscellaneous writing, and I've had this on the go for 2 years. And then this is my most important moleskin probably, my musings notebook. This is the one that I finished last, but I would say that these are some of my most precious notebooks. Like I would never put this one in storage because I like to look back on it. This is where I will write poetry, where I will write nature writing, reflections, kind of like, I don't know, poetic journaling. So if I have like, if I'm pondering over a specific thought or an idea, I think it's a really great insight into like my thinking more than any other notebook. Oh, and I use the Moleskine B6 hardcover, which I found out they are discontinuing. I went into Moleskine the other day and they told me that they were discontinuing the B6 size, which actually breaks my heart because the B6 Moleskine is the best size ever. Like, it's just so satisfying. It's such a nice size. You can like have it alongside a paperback book very easily, and it fits in most bags. It's just the best size, and so at Moleskine, please do not discontinue this notebook. And then finally I have this one, which I don't really use as much as I used to, but a couple of years ago I used this for daily nature writing, and I got about halfway through the notebook. I sit outside for 15 minutes a day and I just do nature writing, and I kind of want to get back into the habit of this. Occasionally I will pick this up, but not very often. Okay, the next section is planning. You know, of course, the first planner I'm going to mention is the academic planner from Pumpkin Productivity. We have a yearly and an academic planner, but the academic is the one that I use for my daily planning. This is where I will write my to-do list and just make my weekly plan for the week. Like, this is my main planner that I use. Also, by the way, we ordered too much stock of the yearly planner this year. Accidentally. There was a problem with the shipment, and so we have too many planners, and it's April and we still have a load of yearly planners left, and so I put them up on the website for £3. So if you want to get one, it's like majorly decreased, but I don't want them to just be like go to waste. And be recycled when they could be used and go to a good home. But yes, academic planner is my main planner. However, I do have two others for very specific purposes. So this is the Muji weekly calendar. This is all undated and you can just add in like the month and the week. And I use this for my YouTube content planner. I find this really handy, honestly, and I like being able to look at the year of content at a glance, and it kind of works better for this to be in a separate place than my daily to-do list planner. And then I also have a mini Moleskine planner. This is the 2025 one. On the left you have the days of the week, and then on the right is a notes page, and I use this for work. So this is my work planner for keeping track of meetings, deadlines, to-do lists for work. I like that this is really small because I can keep it in my work bag and then also always have it in my pocket when I'm at work. And then finally I've just got some miscellaneous notebooks. So this first one is my life philosophy notebook, but it's just where I write down any like thoughts on life or like key beliefs that I have. I really like doing this because it helps me like understand my belief system and my thoughts a little bit better. And we're so often told what we should believe without necessarily always like seeing the grey area in something, and I think having a notebook like this just helps me be really clear on my principles, on my ethics, on my philosophy of how the world works, and just also key themes that I find really interesting. Like there are ideas and themes and philosophers that I always come back to and that always came up in my university essays and research, however hard I try to avoid them. Like Wittgenstein, for example, I really agree with his philosophy and it really resonates, and so I've got a page in here about Wittgenstein and what specifically I like about his philosophy and how it's informed my own life philosophy. Then this one is very like 2015. I got it in 2015, which is why it's very 2015. It's a lovely paper chase notebook, this owl and purple pages, and this is my therapy notebook. I've literally been using this since I started therapy, and I've not even used up half of this. But if, for example, my therapist sets me homework to do in between sessions, I might write down a list of things that I want to mention in therapy one week. I think if I hadn't started this when I was 15, I probably wouldn't start it again, but because I've got it and because it's been used for such a long time, I still will occasionally pick this up. Then here is my PhD planning notebook, and all of these flashcards, bulldog clipped to the back, are key questions around my PhD and kind of things that I needed to iron out before my application. I was using this a lot when I was applying for my PhD back in the autumn, but I haven't really used it since I decided to wait to apply. And then the final notebook that I have is another Moleskine, because if you couldn't tell, Moleskine is my favourite, and this is my watercolour notebook. I got this for my 22nd birthday from my parents and I really like it. I rarely use it though because I'm so worried about like wasting the paper. This is the kind of thing that I will do in here, and I know that I should just start using it because I can get another one if I use it up, but it feels like I can't waste it by doing some terrible paintings. Anyway, those are all of my notebooks. A ridiculous number of notebooks, and actually not even all of my notebooks, because I have many that I'm just not really using at the moment, or which I have used up and are kind of full, or ones that are empty and waiting to be used, which is even worse. I have like some up on my bookshelf, for example, which are collections of like notes and reflections from holidays and things. I feel like I never need a different notebook. Like I have so many here and they fulfill every function I might need for a notebook. So if I think, oh, I need to write this down, I'm like, I know which notebook to use. And so I feel like I've got a very good system. And if you are also obsessed with notebooks, tell me about your system. I want to know. I mean, I don't want to change my system because I like it, but also I want to be inspired. Like, please, if you've got any good tips for notebooks, if there's anything you use a notebook for that you're like, wow, this really changed the way that I kind of think about things, or anything, let me know. I would be very interested. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have more than just a productive week.